Hi, it's Richard here. Welcome to Education Ghana's channel. It's been about 3 years since Ghana introduced a new standard-based curriculum in all its primary schools. It is my understanding that beyond the implementation challenges, a new standard-based curriculum presents to us a clear vision of what quality education should look like in every Ghanaian school. In this video, I share with you 6 key new ideas embedded in this curriculum that makes me believe that a standard-based curriculum is the gold standard for quality education in Ghana. Here are the 6 new ideas that the curriculum seeks to enable high-quality learning in every Ghanaian classroom. Let's dive into it. The first idea that this new curriculum brings to us is that for the first time, it gives us a clear vision, definition, description of what quality learning should look like. The old curriculum was associated with a very simplistic view of learning as instruction. So students were to learn from the teacher as the main source of what they needed to know and then what they needed to understand and what they needed to be able to do. And for that matter, it did not give room to the possibility of students being able to make sense of their world and even coming up with new ideas. So learning was seen as instruction. The teacher was the encyclopedia and the custodian of knowledge. The new curriculum broadens this view of learning and includes construction, where the students actually make meaning for themselves, exploring different sources of information from the teacher, from the internet, from literature, from books, from his own environment and his own experiences, and seeking to make meaning and to create new knowledge. And not only do it by themselves, but also learn in a collaborative manner with other colleagues in their classroom, trying to make meaning out of the subject content through the idea that learning is construction. So these 2 ideas brings to mind a learning philosophy called social constructivism, which is the philosophy behind this new curriculum, meaning that it seeks that every Ghanaian child, in learning the fractions, in learning the parts of speech, in learning how to write essays, in learning about our world and our people and the history of Ghana, in learning about Ghanaian language, whatever the subject content it is, they will seek to make meaning. It will not just be a passive acquisition of knowledge, but it will be an active engagement with subject content and seeking to understand and make meaning and sense of it. So learning is seen in this new curriculum as an active process of mental construction and sense making. Learning is determined by what goes on in the child's mind and with how the student actually make meaning. So kids are not just expected to be shown how to maybe add fractions without knowing how the processes and the methods were generated. So we're moving from where students simply just follow teachers' instructions, carry out what the teacher wants them to do, without even knowing why they work, what the results actually mean, to a learning situation where students are active in the learning, in the teaching and learning, and it's centered on them so that it is aligned with their experiences, the needs of the students. And when learners are learning even the subject content, they are actively engaged with the subject matter and they are seeking to make sense of the ideas and the connections between the concepts and ideas and processes and facts that they have been given. Is seeking to make sense of it and to generate new knowledge by themselves. This is a new way of learning that the new curriculum actually presents. And that is the kind of learning that characterizes most top performing educational systems curriculum across the world. The learning as sense making, not just as acquisition of knowledge from a teacher, but learning as a way of making meaning out of everything that you're given. So students don't just need to know the formula and to know how to use it, but they also need to know how the formula came about and the big ideas behind the formula. And that understanding will even enable them to create new solutions in addressing the problems that surrounds them. So this means that the way of teaching also has to change. And the new curriculum emphasizes a new way of teaching, and that is constructivism teaching. That is, we need to teach for understanding. It's important that students understand why the formula and know what the formula, and they need to know at what conditions, at what period of time is this particular idea relevant, and in what state is the idea not even relevant. So not just acquiring knowledge or teachers impacting knowledge, but actually teachers facilitating the whole learning process for students to explore and to come to a deeper understanding of the things that they are being taught or being explained to them. And this development of conceptual learning can be done through using of active learning strategies, differentiated instructional approaches, or scaffolding instruction, which the curriculum encourages all teachers to use to help students to begin to engage in constructivist learning, where they are learning to make meaning for themselves, to construct new knowledge. So learning is not just acquiring or acquisition, it is also assimilation and participatory, right? Students being actively involved. And throughout this process, the curriculum requires that students are not just developing content knowledge and understanding of things, but they're also developing skills that are transferable, skills that can be used in different jobs, in different situations. And it lists these skills as core competencies that expect all educators, as they deliver the subject content, to develop these skill sets in our Ghanaian learners. An example of them are these skills of communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creative thinking, raising the students as global citizens, intercultural understanding, being able to understand the world, their world, and the Ghanaian context very well, and being able to use that to make an impact and contribution to the global community at large, and developing both personal and leadership skills as well. These are skill sets which is known as the soft skills, or in the education sector as the 21st century learning skills, that are essential for the knowledge economy and the changing world which we live in, where we're not even certain of even the kind of jobs that kids are going to perform or be asked to do in the future. So these essential skills are required that teachers develop that whilst they are developing or teaching the curriculum content. Another new idea that this new curriculum actually introduced is the whole idea of assessment. And assessment is so critical in learning because it is a bridge between teaching and learning. The old curriculum and education in Ghana has actually been concentrated on one form of assessment, and that is the summative assessment. That is assessment of learning, where the teacher is making judgment of students' achievement and performance. So typically, in reference to the teaching and pedagogical practices of the old curriculum, people just deliver the subject content through a lecture approach, and when the teacher has finished delivering the content, he will just assign work to the students to do. Because he viewed learning as just instruction, he assumed that by just explaining and talking about the subject matter, everyone has learned. And for that matter, will then assign the students some homework, classwork, tests to see whether they actually acquire or understood the concepts that he taught. So practices that are within, again, school system focuses on summative assessment, where the teacher, after learning, after instruction, actually check to see whether the students have acquired the knowledge that he or she delivered. But this new curriculum places a new emphasis on assessment. It broadens our understanding of what assessment is, and it introduces assessment as deep reflections on learning, assessment as a way for students to monitor and to review their learning, assessment as a way for teachers and students to have evidence of whether learning is happening once the instruction was being delivered, right? So it brings the idea of assessment as learning, which are self-knowledge, the students' own assessment of their learning, monitoring their learning, evaluating their learning with a set techniques and tools and questions to do a deep reflection of their own learning at the beginning, at the end, and even during the lessons, and to see what works for them as learners, to see where their gaps are, and to be able to identify what they need to do to be able to address the gaps that they have in achieving the learning targets. So we also have assessment for learning, and these are the evidence of learning to determine what the next steps, as I indicated, so that the teacher can adjust instruction in such a way that it will address the students' learning gaps. So assessment are being used to diagnose students' gaps. Assessment assessment being used to understand the individual difficulties and challenges of students in assessing the instructions of the curriculum and using that knowledge to adjust instructions so that students' learning gaps will be addressed and that students will be able to make the desired progress towards achieving the learning goals. So this is welcoming because it changes teachers' mindset of assessment, that assessments are not just used to punish students or to pass a judgment of who is smart and who is not, but assessment is being used now to actually facilitate learning for every Ghanaian child. And that is the focus of the curriculum, that seeks that teachers focus on learning and student learning progression. And using assessment in this way will enable teachers to identify what the real gaps of learners are so that they can address them in the teaching and learning moment of our lessons. The fifth idea that this new curriculum presents to us as a way to enable high quality learning in every Ghanaian classroom is the idea of collaborative professional learning, where teachers work together collaboratively in the ongoing process of collective inquiry and research to achieve better results for the students that they serve. So we know that in every school, the variation in teacher effectiveness is higher than even the variation or differences in teacher effectiveness between schools. And that is why students' mobility does not actually make a big difference for students' learning. Like if you move your child from one school to the other, it does not really make a difference. The key thing is that who is your child's teacher? And we know that in every school, no matter how good the school is, no matter how poorly performed the school is, there are effective teachers in every school, and there are teachers who are not that effective within every school. So what you do to narrow up the gap between teacher effectiveness or the differences in teacher effectiveness within a school is to get the educators or the teachers within the school to learn from each other. For me, this is a huge paradigm shift that this new curriculum actually presents or brings to the Ghanaian educational landscape, because hitherto, when somebody finishes teacher training colleges and they engage as teachers within our school system, that is the end of learning for that person, right? The person does not have any opportunity for continual development and continual learning to improve their effectiveness, to improve their practices. Everyone works in a silo. Everybody works in their classroom. There was no for teachers to actually engage in continuous professional learning, or either to begin to develop the idea and the culture of learning from each other to enhance their practice. So this idea of professional learning community, encouraging collaborative professional learning among our educators, is actually innovative. And there's a lot of research that supports this idea that it is one of the most highly effective tool to improving learning outcomes within schools across the world. And I'm very happy that the new curriculum did emphasize this, that teachers need to work together, focusing on learning, focusing on building collaborative culture among themselves as professionals, so that they could learn from each other. They could engage in continuous job-embedded learning that enables them to better understand the work they do, to better understand the more effective ways of doing it as they learn from each other in order to improve their own delivery, in order to improve their own practices across the school. And this new curriculum requires that every school actually do this once a week, an hour every week, that teachers will come together, share ideas, reflect on their work, see where there are gaps, and then think creatively, reading research resources and finding more creative and innovative ways of improving their practices so that they can improve learning outcomes for all learners. This is novel, and this needs to be commended, and this needs to be encouraged in every school across the country, so that we'll begin to see teachers working as collaborators, just as they are required to develop students as collaborators through the teaching and learning process, which is one of the key core competencies that the curriculum requires students to develop as they learn the subject matter. The sixth and the last big idea that this new curriculum presents for enabling high quality learning in all Ghanaian schools is the idea of structured learning, or direct instruction. And I'm sure all the teachers that have gone through the training have heard repeatedly the idea of folding, right? Or scaffolded instruction, and the fact that lessons should have three phases: a beginning called the starter, the main, where the teaching and learning ideas are being presented and developed, and students are assessed or given opportunity to respond to the new ideas or the new learning, so that there can be consolidation and a deeper understanding of concept. And then at the end of the lesson, there is opportunity for students to do a deep reflection of their learning through the plenaries. So here, the new curriculum requires that every lesson starts with an individual reflection on learning through a starter activity that prepares the students for the new learning or the new lessons for the day. And at the end of every lesson, there is again opportunity for the students to reflect on the new learning that they have engaged in, and that teachers are supposed to share the learning intention or the learning indicators as well as the performance indicators, the outcomes that the new lesson seeks to achieve. And throughout the lesson, the teacher will seek to present ideas in a very constructivist manner that enables students to be actively engaged in assimilating and consolidating their understanding of the new concepts that constitute every new learning. These are the 6 fundamental ideas the new curriculum actually offers to enable high quality learning in every Ghanaian school. And to go over it, this new curriculum says that students should be actively engaged in learning. Learning is not done for them by somebody just pouring a load of information on them, but learning should be done in a way that students are actually seeking to understand that load of information that the teacher would have poured upon them, as we say in Ghana, or would have told them. So instead of just telling, think about what they would do in order to come to a deeper understanding of that knowledge. And that teachers have to use constructivist teaching, active learning, differentiated instruction by task, by support, by outcome, so that every child can access the curriculum fully, irrespective of their gaps or challenges. And that whilst they are learning the content knowledge, they should develop learning skills, transferable skills. That is very important for their future of work. That is very important for life, so that they grow up to become lifelong learners. And that assessment should not just only be summative, but it should also be formative. Assessment as learning and assessment of for learning should be used to solicit evidence of students' learning, and using that feedback to guide students as to what they need to do to move their learning forward. And that teachers should not work in isolations. They should work together collaboratively, continually learning from their practice, from their experiences, from each other, in order to improve and refine their own practices to deliver better learning outcomes for every Ghanaian child. And that instruction has to be scaffolded and be well structured to enable every child access the curriculum fully through the idea of direct instruction. This is the 6 reasons why I believe that the new standard-based curriculum is the gold standard for high quality learning. Please subscribe to our channel, Education Ghana, and you will hear more such videos about the transformative measures that have been taken to improve the quality of education in Ghana. Thank you.